everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 348 for January 8th, 2020. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host on this week's journey into advanced tech mobility and sustainable energy. And holy shit, do we have a lot of news today. You wouldn't think it was a new year. There was a war on the horizon, political unrest around the globe, Australia on fire. No, none of our stories are going to touch on any of those things. Which is a good thing, yeah. Because you're going to get that other stuff everywhere. And honestly, charred koala, that is not pretty, kids.
Dude. That went
right?
south fast. Yeah.
I'm not, it makes me sad. Anyway, let's introduce the panel and get this show on the road. My co-host, my wingman, my good friend, and in a very calm environment, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Yes, I did not actually mean to almost like blend in with the. Probably should have picked a different shirt, but yes, here I am in the new Schaefer What Drives Us office with nothing in the wall. I'm in a perfectly empty room, probably echoing really badly, but I do want to give a shout out to all of our subscribers, especially the new ones. We do keep track of all the people who subscribe, and I want to say thank you very much, every single person, which we're just under 1,200 now. And, you know, when you think about an 8-year-old who, like, makes $25 million a year or whatever on YouTube, and we have 1,200 subscribers after 10 years, yes, every one of you, we're aware of you, and thank you.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
It's quality over quantity.
There we go. We're quality, or are we just, is it age over beauty or something like that?
I don't know.
Something. The man whose lighting inspired me to up my game this week, our friend in Canada, Mr. Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Yeah, Russell had to up his game. He said not to change my lighting, but he updated his. Good job, Russell.
Thank you, Mark. You inspired me. You set the bar higher, and I had to follow. Well, speaking of setting the bar higher, he is wishing everyone a Merry Cybertruck, and I have no effing clue what that means. But nonetheless, he is our good friend, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Yeah, I had to show off one of my Christmas gifts, just since this is the first time I've been on after the holiday. And then the other one is this fun thing. I don't know if you can see this.
No, you got a Model 3 ring.
Yeah, it's the Model 3 ring from TeslaTrip.com. And so I can just tap it on the side of the car there and get into the Model 3.
Oh, my God. So you're like married to your car now?
He's a cyborg.
Yes.
Can't you just surgically implant the chip into your wrist?
That's been done already.
Yeah, I think this is a little better option than surgically implanting it.
I have to admit, I actually love that. I totally love that. Well, speaking of love, our friend in the Mid-Atlantic region who's full of love, and I'm full of love for him, speaking from the center of the political hotbed of the planet right now, Mr. Casey Green.
Yes, if they strike, we're going to.
Is your office in the Pentagon basement, or?
No. I mean, like literally, just the whole area that we're in.
Yeah. Let's not make jokes about that because Casey's right there. He's right in the middle of all that. Well, a man who's not in the middle of that, safely hidden in Boulder on the Front Range, the founder and operator of Boulder Hybrids, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Good to be back, and I guess I'm the only one having a beer tonight, but I've got the drum roll, please. Pale ale.
I'm definitely disappearing and grabbing a drink from somewhere. Holy shit, what am I thinking? Well, our first story tonight uncharacteristically doesn't go to Russell's rant. It goes to the man who named Russell's rant. We go to Patrick Connor for our first story.
So what is this going to be? Pat's Preaches? Or no, I don't know. If you guys come up with a name, let me know.
I'll think about it.
So this story is from E&E News, which is Energy and Environment. And it's titled states face roadblocks on path to lower tailpipe emissions. And it's dated January 8th, today. It's got a lot of great stuff about Colorado, how when the Trump administration wanted to roll back of the environmental quality, how Colorado and other states stepped up. And there's just one paragraph that I want to read to you in here. From Minnesota to New Mexico, some common themes have emerged. Auto dealers have sounded the alarm that the new rules would raise prices for customers. The oil and gas industry has joined with conservative groups to decry the rules as costly and burdensome. The auto trade associations have hired small armies of lobbyists to air their concerns in closed-door meetings with state officials. So the reason I picked this story is that last time on the show I said, hey, the feds aren't carrying their weight, so it's up to the states. And so now here's a story where, yeah, the states are trying to do the right thing, and yet there are all these obstacles being put up in front of them. So you, as a member of your local community, have to make sure that your values are represented and that your representatives understand that this kind of stuff is important to you, or they're just going to listen to the lobbyists. So do your part.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a fascinating article that does go into all of the lobbying groups and the quote unquote think tanks that are funded. Although I will say that there are only half as many obstacles as there used to be, because I think one of the Koch brothers died.
Money,
still,
that's what.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, the money and the think tanks and the lobbyists are still around. And after this, and it's a lengthy article, but people should go read it. EEnews.net. But at the bottom of the article is where it says, let's see, it's talking about New Mexico, and I'm going to read a paragraph. The State Environmental Improvement Board of New Mexico first adopted the low-emission vehicle rules in 2007 under then-Governor Bill Richardson, a Democrat, but the state repealed them in 2013 under then-Governor Susana Martinez, a Republican, and soon after taking office last year, Lujan Grisham vowed to restore the climate rules for cars. Of course, she's a Democrat. So what kind of environment and what kind of rules and laws are we creating where they're just going to flip-flop back and forth from one administration to another? I mean, what message does that send to consumers when they might buy something now, but are they going to be able to take the tax credit next year, or is it going to be repealed? And Mark, isn't that what happened when Ford won PM or whatever in, I forgot the province. Was he in Ontario?
Yeah, Ontario.
Yeah, he did the exact same thing, right?
Yep.
So it's not just here; it's everywhere. Whoever's in charge gets to set the laws, and like Patrick said, it's up to us to vote for the people who are going to bring in the laws that represent forward progress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's a great article. Everyone should read this article. It's really good.
There you go. Well, thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
Sure.
Let's go to our next story about really kind of the opposite thing in a sense. Tony has a story about everyone's favorite manufacturer of the ultimate driving machine.
Yeah. So BMW has come out and said that they are committed to internal combustion engines for at least 30 years. Now, here's the thing. Patrick shakes his head. I shook my head too. However,
Facepalm.
I read the article, and this unlike the other one, this is a very short article, and this is at uk.motor1.com. And as I read the article, what it sounded like is that BMW isn't necessarily saying, screw batteries, screw electric vehicles, we hate them and we're not going to produce. Instead, what they said was they are working on electric vehicles, but they've publicly said that they predict it'll be about 30 years before electric vehicles have full penetration which means they are still going to focus on making exciting and fun to drive internal combustion engines while also ramping up on electric vehicles. So that's their approach. And this is what I want to put forth to you guys. Is it that BMW is holding on internal combustion engines, or are they accurately predicting that it will be 2 to 3 decades before we see full penetration and saturation of electric vehicles? Are they just being honest?
I just want to say that in most of their territory, it will be illegal to sell a combustion engine before the 30 years are up on their home continent.
Okay, fair enough. You sure?
Well, there've been
they're on the
unless the government changes and they
unless the government changes.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a real dilemma. If you are a legacy car company that you have a lot of investment in this, battery research and development is not your expertise. It's expensive to switch over to that whole new disruptive model. And that's why I think a lot of the existing car companies are going to fail. This is a technology inflection point. That's when they're most vulnerable to this. And some of them are not going to make it.
They can't give up the profits. They can't give up the quarterly earnings
Exactly.
to do all the things they need to do to innovate out of this. They've got all these stranded assets, transmission plants, engine plants, parts plants that are all feeding the machine at a very cheap rate, which allows them to be profitable. In order to switch over to get to the new technology, they got to spend a ton of money, and they end up having to answer to the board, to the shareholders, and to everyone that's screaming at them that their quarterly profits have disappeared. And that is why it's really only the strong-willed will be able to make it through this. Others that try to do it partly, start on it, they're going to lose their jobs, or it's not going to be fast enough. So they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. You've got to rip the Band-Aid off quickly. You can't just peel it off slowly, and they're all trying to peel it off slowly currently.
Yeah.
I think the Dieselgate fines might be the best thing that happened to VW, because they have that same problem that every other automaker had, that they're bound to profits and they can't spend the billions to invest in charging infrastructure and new projects. But Dieselgate required them to spend that money. And so then they have a perfect excuse to go to their board with and say, we have to do this. It's this penalty. And so then they funded Electrify America and similar programs. And now they're coming out with 20 EVs over the next decade. And that is horrible as that was. It forced them to cross the Rubicon in a way that they might have not been able to do on their own. It's weird to say Dieselgate saved VW. There's an article I should
There's
write.
the title. There's the title right there. Yeah. It's either that or Cross the Rubicon. I'm not sure. It's one of those.
Isn't that a Jeep?
Yeah.
What's a Rubicon? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. So that's the only reason I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to get his thought on this, because where are we standing right now? Like 2.5%, 3% market penetration for electric vehicles?
Right, lots of room to grow. Mazda recently said something similar, that they don't see EVs being relevant over the next decade. And I think they're just so short-sighted, because by 2025, they're going to be 20% of the market. And you're going to be missing out. If you're look at all the cars that are coming out now, the Mach-E and what's the new Porsche Taycan. They've all got serious problems where they can't compete in range with Tesla because they aren't as efficient. They have, and they will get better. They will improve if they keep iterating on them. But they're still trying to catch up with Tesla 2012. And by doing these things now, these are the companies that are going to learn these hard lessons and improve their products. But if they just say, we'll worry about it in a decade or later, they're going to then be way behind.
Yeah, they're going to still be catching up with Tesla 2012, only it'll be 2030.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That might be a bit hyperbolic.
What are their deadlines?
I have to say, Russell, that's bang on, because every one of the regular car companies that have released an EV have all had problems with efficiency, range, EPA ratings. Every one of them have had issues.
Yeah.
Now, when you say issues and problems, what you're saying is they don't match the Tesla model.
They don't even come close.
But that's not necessarily the point. Do you think Porsche wanted? Do you think Porsche designed the Taycan to be exactly what it is?
Well, they
I think
benchmarked
we're
it.
Porsche designed it to be a race car.
They were definitely disappointed with the EPA range.
But coming out with a car and telling me, the consumer, it's going to do 300 miles, and then the EPA tests it and said, no, it's going to be 201 miles. That's ridiculous.
And then you've benchmarked it against the 2012 Model S the whole time. You see it followed all the time by a 2012 Model S.
You should have managed expectations and came out and said, you know what, the car's going to be 220 or something along that lines. Coming out and saying 300, that's like stupid.
Yeah.
That's like saying you're going to have full self-driving in 2017.
Right. They all make mistakes.
Shit.
And so you want to skin your knees early. You don't want to wait and do it later when your business depends on it.
Over-promising and under-delivering only worked when I was dating my wife, and she's still coming to terms with that.
He hears about it every day.
She loves you so much. I get it. And believe me, I'm not saying that Tesla doesn't have a lead and Tesla doesn't have an advantage. What I am saying is that I think when some of these other companies, I'm not talking about Mazda. Mazda's a little tiny company that kind of has their own little weird sort of philosophy, and bless them for that. But and they make some nice cars, but they are what they are. But when Ford wants to do something, when is forced up against the wall to do something, they never change because they want to. They only do when they're forced to, because as Mark pointed out, they're making money and they don't want to stop making that big money doing what they do, selling F-150s or whatever it is. I just don't know that. I don't know that pivot's going to be impossible, or that, I don't think it's going to be a 15-year lead. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
It was almost a drink moment.
That was almost what?
A drink moment. Drink.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't say it was.
Not at all. If we get to some of my stories, there'll be lots of drink moments. I'm going to make that promise to you, the viewer and or the listener. Well, thank you, Tony. Anything else? Any other?
No, I that was exactly the kind of discussion I was expecting. I just wanted to get everyone talking on it.
There we go. No, I think it's an interesting discussion, because it's something we'll see, time will tell. Will Tesla continue to iterate successfully and keep their product ahead? Or maybe like the next story, will the company that was at one time the leader fade? And for that, we're going to go to Paul.
Yeah, a story that came out recently on Green Car Reports was that in 2019, the Prius was not Toyota's largest hybrid selling, which everybody thinks Prius when they think a hybrid. But surprisingly, the RAV4 hybrid way outsold the Prius. And that's because America's taste for SUV-type crossover vehicles instead of sedan hatchbacky vehicles. 2019, the RAV hybrid sold 92,500, and the Prius only sold 69.7 thousand vehicles, which is sad for us. But the cool thing is, of all the RAVs, and simultaneously, the RAV4 is Toyota's best-selling vehicle. I mean, it's outselling everything, Camrys, Corollas, and over 20% of the RAVs are actually hybrids, which is great. So there's people who are probably going in to buy a regular RAV SUV, and the salesperson says, hey, why don't you get a hybrid? It's not that much more money, and you'll save money and gas, and you'll save the environment, and they're making the switch. So while it's sad to see the Prius sales dropping, the RAV hybrid uptick is great. We also have the Corolla hybrid, and I think if you want to use the phrase killer app, the RAV Prime coming out next summer, that's going to be gangbusters. I mean, half my customers come in and say, God, a 40-mile plug-in hybrid, that's going to do my day-to-day stuff, and yet I can go to the mountains on the weekend. Sign me up. So I think Toyota's going to sell a shit ton of those cars when it's real.
But it doesn't have 300 miles of range.
Yes, it does.
Well, it has. Yes, I think.
Well, sarcastic drink moment.
Fuel.
Sarcastic drink moment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Most people drive 40 miles a day or less. So the RAV will do their day-to-day stuff, the RAV Prime, and then when they want to drive cross-country, they'll put gas in the tank. And
That's
and
great.
hopefully after that, we'll see a pure RAV EV with, real 300-mile range one day.
For the third time.
Yes.
I'll be very interested to see what the MPG is after the plug-in time on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping. So I'm
working on current RAV hybrids, I think. So.
Yeah, and I am 100% serious and confident that at this time next year, that within 12 months there will be a RAV4 plug-in in my garage. My wife she absolutely loved the 2019 hybrid, RAV4 hybrid that I put out the review for. If you haven't watched the review yet, make sure and click the button, the eye that just popped up in the upper right corner. But she said, just like I said, I wasn't going to get rid of my 2014 Prius until I had something with a plug. And so I bought the Prime. And then she's looking to get from the sedan up to an SUV, but a small, a CUV, and she's going to get something with a plug, and it's going to be the RAV4 hybrid. But Russell, to answer your question, what's the MPG going to be when the battery depletes? I can tell you with the Prime, even though the battery technically depletes, that's the EV portion, it still has the full hybrid portion, and I'm still pulling 60, 65 miles per gallon. So if the RAV4 hybrid was giving me 45 to 50 miles per gallon, with that big honk, are they saying like 12 kilowatt hours? With the big honking battery backing it up.
It's 17, I think.
It's 17. Yeah.
Jesus.
It's big enough to get the maximum federal tax credit, where the Prime wasn't.
Yeah, it's that thing, even when the battery is off, or if you manually put it into hybrid mode, I'm confident that for the size of that vehicle, it's going to be 50, 60 miles per gallon in city.
I don't want to say I have inside information, but I have some inside information.
You're not very good at that, Russell.
Yeah, shit. I just totally blew that. Oh wait, I don't have an NDA. Woo. So it's from what I understand, Toyota is tuning the RAV plug-in towards the performance side.
Yeah, it's going to have a ton of horsepower and torque.
Yeah, which is why I don't know what.
I think they said it's going to be the second fastest 0 to 60 car in their family after the Supra.
Okay,
Wow.
then I take back everything I just said.
That's if you press the Russell button, but if you press the Tony button,
The
it will
Russell-
have it.
Yes.
Right. Press the Russell button. You go.
But again, that's brilliant for them, because they're going to get people who say, "Oh, I don't want a hybrid or a plug-in thing," and then the salesperson say, "Go drive it." And they'll go, "Holy shit, this like hauls ass. I want it." So,
Right. Or you press the Tony button and you get 55 in a SUV, which is great.
Right.
I predict. Let's come back a year from now. I predict they are going to sell buckets and buckets of those cars.
That's the cool thing about a software-controlled motor controller. You can have those different settings pretty easily. That's awesome.
And whoever reviews, if Tony or Russell, make sure you cover the sport and the eco mode buttons with Tony and Russell.
Yes, cover the buttons. Cover the names. Have your faces. You push them.
Well, I'm hoping to get one sometime soon. Not soon like next week, but soon.
Yeah.
One bad thing in Colorado, as of January 1st, the state EV rebate dropped from $5,000 to $4,000. So people who buy the RAV will get a nice Colorado rebate, but it will only be $4,000, where last year it was $5,000.
Well, still better than you get for the feds with a lot of manufacturers.
And that's why I bought a Prius Prime on December 24th last year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice, Paul.
Cool.
Nice.
$1,000.
Plug-in hybrids are the gateway drug, so I'm
That's right.
happy to see a lot of them out there.
Nice.
Indeed.
Well, speaking of gateway drugs, and I have no idea why that's an appropriate segue to this next story. Mark and Tony kind of fought over a story, and Mark won. So let's go to Mark Coughlin for our next new vehicle.
Yes, at CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show happening in Las Vegas, at the end of the Sony presentation for their keynote, they sprang this on the crowd. They
That's a
have
hell
a
of a-
concept car that they rolled out on stage after they announced the new PlayStation, and they indicated that this new concept car is something that they're interested in. They had an actual working model on stage. How much of it was working? Well, certainly the interior was working. The screens were working.
Does it
We
have
don't know about the
PlayStation built
drivetrain.
into the dash so you can play PlayStation while the car's self-driving?
I got to believe that that's right on their radar screen, Paul. You can see from the photo here that the back seat has access to screens in front of each of the people in the back seat. You've got a large up-front screen that looks like it runs the full course of the dash. And information that's come from this, they're really light on what it was. What was the drivetrain? All they said it was an electric vehicle is really all they said. They didn't get into any details. But The Verge here, where the article's from, had indicated that they've got information that some other industry players have combined to make this vehicle, such as BlackBerry QNX type system. Bosch has contributed something to this. Mostly certainly a number of different players. The platform itself, the EV platform, has been engineered by automotive supplier Magna, which is a Canadian company that has developed many lines for cars, traditional cars, and they've talked up their electric end for quite some time now. And apparently,
they worked on the EV1.
This is their drivetrain.
They build the I-Pace for Jaguar.
And
I'm
the
sorry?
Ford Focus Electric.
Yeah.
So some it's a sedan. It looks like it's got some great lines. The car has
I
a
love
class
this car.
It looks wonderful.
But didn't they close all the Sony stores?
Internet
Good point.
only.
They were closing them because they were going to open Sony automotive stores. I
Right,
guess that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
the big plan. But
Is there
the
a
car
26-inch
looks
Trinitron on the
fantastic.
screen?
It's whether or not they're serious, and why you leave it to the end of your keynote speech and really don't elaborate a lot on it. It was almost kind of rushed. People were saying that were present. It was kind of like, and here's a car, and we don't really. We're not really answering many questions about it. So it's interesting that this car has appeared. I don't know how serious Sony is, but man, talk about coming from left field on this, though. Like, who would have expected Sony to be building a car?
And coming from kind of near
Kind of
death.
like Fisker, the vacuum company, building a car. Or I'm sorry, who's that?
Dyson.
Dyson.
Oh, that's kind of a left field moment as well. So it's I don't know. It's a nice looking car. I would want to get some more details about what their plan is, and until that happens, I'm not sure if this is serious or not.
You
Well,
get a
plus we've
free
seen-
cassette Walkman if you buy the car.
Plus, we've seen all these large manufacturers and Dyson and others actually step up to the plate and then pull it back at the last minute. So they got ways to go on this one.
I mean, it'd be cool, but I mean, Sony for the last 10 years really hasn't done anything new. I mean, they're kind of been fading away from what they were in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So,
But they're still a Japanese megacorp, right?
yeah, but they're not
They might do it.
like you don't see that. Like in the old days, you go into a Best Buy, there'd be like 100 Sony TVs and Discmans, and
Yeah.
computers, and they don't have a lot of stuff going on right now.
But everybody uses their cameras.
Yeah, see, and the thing is, that's one of the things, Casey, is, an article I read about this took a whole different approach, and it wasn't about Sony coming out with an electric vehicle. It was about Sony putting together a one-off electric vehicle to show people what they could do if they partnered with electric vehicle manufacturers. From what was this one with solid state LiDAR, BlackBerry and Bosch, the cameras, like Casey said. Yeah, their cameras, the screens, the interface, all the electronics, rather than taking an existing car and completely gutting it and retrofitting it with Sony stuff, they just built a whole car and said, hey, this is what we could do. And I don't think this car was put together for consumers like us. I think this car was put together and brought out for the automobile executives, for them to see that, holy crap, we should start talking to Sony.
And that's the typical use for this show, is to bring your components to show what you can do in the consumer electronics space, so that somebody will take your stuff and either bring it to market or integrate it into their product. And this will do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course, I can see the Tesla ads in 2 years where there'll be Tesla's VHS and Sony's Betamax.
Tesla doesn't advertise, Paul.
That's true. Yes.
They also use Sony.
Drink.
So if you think about Sony as an entertainment company that makes movies and games and other things,
You'll be able to watch all their catalog while you're driving.
Exactly. And if cars go autonomous, then this is the new platform for entertainment. And people are going to be spending time in there, and if Sony controls the screen, then they can make sure that their content is front and center on that entertainment option that you have in that vehicle. I think
is Disney going to make a car?
They already
No, theirs will be a monorail.
Yeah.
No, okay, all right.
It's Mickey Mouse. No one will want it.
Could you just imagine a Goofy driving being your chauffeur?
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Okay, I have definitely been in that Uber. I do think that Casey brings up a really important point, not just about the context of what CES is and why this was announced there, but in that I don't know that Sony's really trying to make a car as much as they are saying, we do have this technology and we're good at this, and there's a possible partnership or collaboration at some point, which certainly, if it brings in more money, then yay, Sony, right? That's where I see this more likely than Sony developing a vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah, I agree. Because for Sony to build a dealer network and stuff to sell cars would be crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it'd be crazy. It's really hard, as we well know, right? I mean, we've seen Tesla struggle with it. We've seen other companies. We've seen legacy companies struggle with bringing out new kinds of cars that don't work well in the traditional dealer model. I don't know.
Yeah. I was going to say, definitely things like that massive dashboard screen. Yeah. If someone can partner with them and put that in a car, that's amazing.
You can watch 10 different Sony movies at the same time.
As long as you're paying that monthly subscription fee.
That's right.
Yeah.
As long as they're not Disney.
Yeah. Byton did the same thing with their gigantic screen.
They went with CVS.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, for our next story, we have yet another new SUV, and Tony's going to tell you all about it.
So, guess who's back? Fisker has revealed the Fisker Ocean electric SUV. And dun dun
just sync
dun.
Is
Yeah.
it Ocean 11 or 12?
Ocean 12. Ocean 2020, I think it is called. So their big thing is that it is $37,500 before tax credit, which would mean that because they still qualify, it would be $29,999, under $30,000 after tax credit. Should this ever come to market? Now, okay, I have a couple takes on this. One is, anytime someone comes out with an electric vehicle, the media has to say, like in this case, Fisker's Tesla killer is $29,999 after rebate. Okay, as we've said many times on this show, we don't want anyone to kill anyone. We just want another option for consumers. And if Fisker can actually bring this to market and actually make it a viable vehicle, then that's awesome. Then do it. And it doesn't have to be any killer. It just needs to be a good car that consumers can get behind. That's it. That's all we ask. That's really, I'll throw in some stuff. So there's no real details about performance. They say it'll have an 80 kilowatt hour pack. It'll get between 250 and 300 miles, but there's not a lot of details. Fisker does have manufacturing in the United States, China, and Europe, and they actually predict they'll build more than 1 million vehicles in the 5 years between 2022 and 2027. That's a long way out, and it's easy to make promises 7 years in the future. We'll have to see how this goes. But it's just another that, I remember, 7 years ago, drooling over the Fisker Karma.
Right.
And loving that car, and then it all just went to crap. So I don't know if Fisker can come out with a viable car, then great, bring it to market, do it.
Yep, I wish him well. I'm not holding my breath.
They've been trying for a while. The Karma was the closest
putting
I've
a
seen them
deposit down.
get. Oh no.
Yeah, it's only a $250 deposit.
Yeah.
It's refundable if
If
they're
the
still
company's
alive.
still around, yeah.
And then they'll file Chapter 13 and
Keep your
then you
money.
lose it. Yeah, and lose it.
Yeah, he was making some pretty bold battery claims on Twitter that just didn't give me a warm fuzzy about what they're really going to deliver. It seemed to be more big ego talk than actually. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see.
My one Heinrich, what's his name?
Henrik.
Fisker.
Henrik, yes.
Fisker.
My one Henrik Fisker story is that I saw him at the Chicago Auto Show. He was the lead speaker at the lunch, and he was talking about Fisker, the car company, and making a global brand and everything that would just. And this was months before he closed up shop and everything would. And I'm thinking he had to know. He was standing up there spewing all of this stuff, and he had to know that within months he was going to shutter everything. But he just kept going as though nothing was wrong. That's it.
Just like probably every other CEO of every other company that makes anything.
Probably.
But
Yeah.
no, I'm not excusing his behavior. I'm just saying that's
Yeah. Startups fly pretty close to the edge of death all the time, and always hoping they can pull it out and survive.
right.
Well,
And ignore it and ignore it and ignore it, and then all of a sudden, the feds come and I guess we're out of business. Shit.
Yeah.
His newer car should be a little more resistant to salt water than the last one.
No.
Oh, nice.
Is that why they call it the ocean?
Good.
Ouch. I guess I'm not invited to the Henrik Fisker party next Christmas.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Christmas card for you
As long
this
as it
year.
doesn't have
Yeah.
a mustache on it, I'm fine. That mustache razor thing was just weird. I like the rest of the car as
It
far
really
as its styling.
It looked nice, but it was
Show.
poorly built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who drove it and thought, wow, this is a really well-made vehicle.
Didn't it blow the exhaust right back into the window?
Yeah.
That was a
exhaust
feeture.
Was
Yeah.
right behind the front.
If you had the window rolled down, you died of carbon monoxide.
It was a
Man.
weird spot for the exhaust.
In an EV. How ironic is that, huh? Well, let's go for our next story to Casey for an update on Tesla factories.
Speaking of environmental conditions, before I get into that, I made the joke that the Tesla's using Sony cameras. They're not. They're using Athena, but it sounded good because everybody else is using Sony cameras. So Gigafactory 4 is in Germany, and as we all predicted, that it would not go as smoothly and as quickly as it did in China. It looks like they are potentially, allegedly, endangering an endangered bat. So they have to wait for the hibernation season to go off and the mating season to finish before they can relocate these bats. And before the bats are fully awake and have finished the mating season, they've got the bird mating season. But they are putting up their lizard nets and a couple other items. The article also says that it is easier to move the bats somewhere else when they're hibernating, but they need a permit. So if you don't get the permit, you got to wait for them to wake up and mate and get out of the way. So it's
yeah. So I think the bats are going to be like me in Las Vegas, where I go to sleep in one place and I wake up completely somewhere else, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I'm not sure quite what it is, but there's a show title in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The birds and the bats.
maybe Elon is Batman.
So Christian Schroeder says that they will do everything that they can within the limits of the law to allow Tesla to speed up this process. But it sounds like Tesla and the environmentalists are all on the same side here. It's just a matter of paperwork and processes.
And not endangering endangered species.
Well, it sounds like the environmentalists want to save the species, as does the company. It's just a matter of getting the permits to actually do the work.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just
But
imagining.
it is interesting.
Like the Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs Bunny wouldn't sell his hole and they built the building all around him. So I see like a stand of trees in the middle of the factory that has the bat habitats in them.
Yes, the bat cave is right in the middle, and all the bats fly in and out of the factory.
Exactly.
That would be cool.
Yeah, just like that bridge in Austin. That'd be awesome.
Yes, exactly.
But this is if there even are any bats. They have to go in and actually see if there are any before they can move them. Once they get the permit.
Wow. Yeah, it's so they when they listed. Where is that? The bats and. What are all the animals? I can't find it now.
Birds, lizards.
Oh yeah, wolves, deer, wild boars.
Yeah, wild boars.
Yeah.
And this is ants. Don't forget the forest ants in Grunheide.
I don't think of lizards in Germany. Maybe I'm narrow-minded there.
Yeah. But I did not anticipate that they would have to do anything with the ants. That is
the ants.
Incredible.
I know.
I thought that we
part
had
of the ecosystem.
They are, but I thought that we had a strict system. Theirs sounds incredible. And, wow.
Whereas in China, Elon said, "I'm going to build a factory here." And China said, "Woof." All right.
Oh, you want it in a year? We can beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want us to take out the panda farm? No problem.
Yeah. We're going to make the factory out of pandas.
Yeah.
No, the pandas are used for the upholstery.
And now you're on the pandas. Oh, man.
I mean, the difference between China and Germany it surprises no one here, right? I mean, of course not, because it's crazy. Because China, I mean, also let's look at the relationship between Tesla and China and Tesla and Germany. It's significantly different.
Yeah.
In one case, it's a nation allowing an American company to build a factory there and employ their workers and whatnot and build there. Another case in China, I mean, it's partially owned by China.
It's 100% foreign owned.
Yeah.
Which is a first for China because they don't play that game, and this was incredible.
Well, it's foreign owned, but who put up the money for it?
China put up the money for it.
Yeah. China did put up the money for it, but yeah.
So if things went south, they own it.
Yeah. But yeah, even to as I say, even to your point, I mean, building in Germany, pretty much on German turf, your Volkswagen and Audi and Porsche, so I don't know if that's anything. Yeah, and and of course, we have to respect the indigenous species, so I'm not saying that, like that BMW is saying, oh no, that they're behind this. I'm just saying I'm thinking there might be some governmental hesitation, maybe throw a few extra roadblocks Tesla's way.
Right. So I wonder if they'll still get this treatment once they actually get the factory up and running, because then they'll be a full-fledged German employer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Michigan didn't seem to care, and they're a full-fledged Michigan employer, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe these bats came from BMW. BMW planted the bats in the forest.
You did say they're easy to move when they're hibernating.
Yeah, you see, I would look for that little logo on those bats.
These bats aren't hibernating; they're dead.
They're not hibernating or dead. They're mechanical.
They all died of
No, I'm pretty sure that would be in
Britain.
Britain. I think that would be Monty Python parrots.
Bats.
Yeah.
M series bats. They're really fast and
Yeah.
There was I apropos of nothing. This is my rat hole since that's our final story of the day. I saw an interesting thing, and forgive me because I don't remember who posted it. One of the people I follow, and obviously, it said that the 94 5 Series BMW is actually smaller than the 19 3 Series BMW. And they put the dimensions on there, and it's slightly smaller. That's how much these things have blown. Things change, I guess. But,
yeah. Everything seems to grow over time, including my waistline.
Are you calling me fat? Because
I said my waistline.
Oh, okay. Anybody have a one more thing this week? Wow, you guys are quiet. Well, let's do some shout outs and go home then. I want to start with Mr. Casey Green. That was me pointing to him on my screen, which you guys can't tell, but I was pointing at Casey.
Yes. So this week we did with Russell and Tony and Mark, we did a 1-year anniversary for my channel. And
I was there?
Yeah, you were there.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
And then we also did a long promised video on the Jatamo adapter for the Model 3. And I'd like you to check it out and subscribe because we've got more stuff coming. That's youtube.com/KCGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. And we thank you for the people who did sign up already. That's incredible. We're over 400. It's awesome.
Wonderful. Well, good. Do support all the people on this in their individual efforts. Everybody here is super accomplished in their own right. Obviously, this show's made no one famous. So please do make a point of supporting Casey and Patrick and Paul and Mark. Tony, he's kind of worthless. And
this is all I got.
Yeah, that's all we have.
He can't even get colored paint to paint his wall.
These other people actually have a life outside of this show. Tony and I, this is all we have.
I would have painted a different color, but apparently there were bats and boars I had to worry about.
Batwing boars? Is that a thing?
Ooh, batwing boars. Yeah, that's even better.
It's like a Harry Potter thing or something, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Connor, you want to talk about
Sure.
thing?
I will give one more shout out to Tesla Trip. Thank you, Danette and Patrick. Those guys were really cool in getting me this ring. Which it's not sponsored. I paid for it, but it's still cool. And then my other shout out is I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thanks.
So
Awesome.
would it be wrong for me, Patrick, to suggest that you keep the ring in your front pocket, and as you approach your car, you just kind of wave your crotch area towards the car until it unlocks?
Just hump the car.
And that's how baby Teslas are made. No, that is not appropriate, Tony.
I swear I thought he was going with you need to put the ring on another appendage on your body. I was like,
You know what? I backed away from that. I literally backed away from that. That was my first thought. Yeah. But the ring looked. It looked finger sized. I was afraid it would slip off.
Without bragging, I will say this is a little.
Thank you.
even I didn't go there. So It's seldom that I get to claim any moral superiority over anything. But speaking of morally superior, Mr. Kuzik, take it away, sir.
I'll be quick. I run Boulder Hybrids, Boulder, Colorado. BoulderHC.com is our website. If you have a broken hybrid or EV, give us a call. Or want to buy a used hybrid or EV.
My bike is up for sale. I really want to come to Colorado and drive something home. I know that's crazy, but
You should, with a bag of weed. Hey, yeah, that's right.
yeah, like
They got
Legal on
Cal-
both ends.
yeah, I was just gonna say, and Tony, what went
Yeah.
legal this week in Illinois?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, recreational marijuana is now legal in Illinois.
I just want how many affected gummy bears are in your house, Tony?
Well, I was gonna say, guess how long it's taken for me to abide? 8 days and counting. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So still not yet. I'm still.
I
sorry.
I like the way that they let everybody go who had been affected by that, rather than keeping them locked up.
Yeah, there's that, right?
Yeah, a lot of
It
places
is
leave them locked up.
that Governor Pritzker did like 11,500, almost 12,000 people had their you had everything. I've been drinking, so
Records
yeah,
expunged.
expunged and for low-level marijuana possession.
Yeah, not dealers or somebody who had multiple crimes, but that's how you would expect it to work, which is
That's how
awesome.
it should be.
Yeah, but it's not how it
yes.
always works, which is kudos to them for doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Coughlin.
Shout out to the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association. We've got a meeting coming up this Friday night at 7. If you would like to attend, just send us a note to our Twitter feed, WREVA Group, and send us a note you'd like to attend, and we'll get you that information.
Excellent.
Also, if you're watching this broadcast now, please press the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and press that bell if you'd like to get notifications when this show goes live. Because we got no idea. It could happen at any point. So I would ring the bell so you'd see when it happens.
So then it's not really live. It's kind of delayed live.
Delayed live.
We do
Kind
live
of like
too,
Saturday Night
occasionally.
Live on the West Coast.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know it's coming, but it's not quite live.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Almost live.
sort of like live.
Yeah.
We mean it to be live.
It's live to us.
Sometimes
would
we
if we
do
could.
live. It's just it's a little harder to do than it used to be.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Things are all evolving here. And speaking of evolving, Mr. Tony Schaefer, bring us home,
Yeah.
baby.
I don't know. Let's see. So let's see. Where am I going here? If you want to read all the news that we're reading, all of the articles, even ones we didn't get to this evening, make sure you check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/whatdrivesus and leave us comments, suggest news items, or just like the page. And if you do use Flipboard as a news aggregator, be sure to subscribe to the What Drives Us magazine. And I have one more suggestion that I want to make to any of our audio podcast listeners who have followed through to the very end. Do me a favor. So this is the way it goes. None of our audio podcast distributors actually give us feedback into how many people actually watch or listen to the shows. So Tony at whatdrives.us. Shoot me an email and say, hey, I listened to the show. Because I literally have no idea how many people listen to the audio shows. And you know what? We're curious. So go ahead and do that. I'll try to remember at the beginning of next week's show to do that.
It's on Apple Podcast and Google's Podcast and Stitcher and
Tesla Head Unit.
And tune in.
Mhm.
And I forget what else.
So in your email, let us know what you're listening on, too.
Yeah.
There you go. Tony at whatdrives.us. And you can send him anything else you like. Sports quotes, funny
Tell him
pictures of cats.
how horrible Flipboard is.
How much you hate Flipboard. How much you hate my new lighting scheme. Do it all. Whoa! That was my dog. My dog suddenly wanted to speak up and be on the show. Thank you, Vizu. Okay, well, that brings this show to a close. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. You can visit him at manthing.com. Please do support Michael, who has supported this show for 10 years. Visit him at manthing. That's manthing.com. Uh-oh, did we lose Tony's audio? He might
We
have
lost Tony,
frozen.
actually. He froze.
I
That's
think
okay.
he froze.
You can wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, and he's gone. Again, youtube.com/whatdrivesus is our YouTube channel. Please go there, subscribe, hit the notifications. And another favor, it costs nothing. Share it with your friends. Post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook or something, and say, hey, this is a cool show. Check it out. We so much appreciate that support. It costs you nothing, and it helps us enormously. So thank you for that support. You can also support us with actual cash. And I'm not talking like throwing dollar bills at us or sticking them in my G-string, which let that image percolate in your head for a little bit. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just point
Patreon.
quarters at us. Yeah.
Yeah. Staple gun. Patreon.com/whatdrivesusshow. That's patreon.com/whatdrivesusshow. You can go there and subscribe for as little as $1 a month. That's less than 25 cents per show. And it helps support the show. And of course, we appreciate your money. We have lots of things to buy, like beer.
We don't use it for beer.
Lighting.
We use it to cover the costs to run this show.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even want to know. And thanks, of course, I should say huge thanks to our current Patreon subscribers, of which there are just a small handful, but I love each and every one of you in my own little weird way. So thank you so much for that. I want to thank Tony Schaefer for signing off early, Mark Coughlin, Paul Guzik, Casey Green, and Patrick Connor for doing a fantastic show tonight. Thank you so much. Merry Cybertruck to you too, Mr. Connor. What is Merry Cybertruck? What does that mean? I don't get it.
It's a mystery. It's a Christmas shirt. They're supposed to be ugly.
So
And
why
ugly
isn't there a
Christmas
Christmas
sweater.
tree in the back of the truck?
It's an ugly Christmas
pickup.
sweater because it's an ugly truck. Okay, that I get. That I get because I didn't get Merry Cybertruck. And thanks, of course, to all of you. You guys are the reason we do this show. So thanks, whether you're watching us or listening to us. Thank you so much. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See you next week, folks. Thank you. Woo!
Bye.